This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
Welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Hoffman. Today's Thursday, March the 21st, 2024. So glad you can join us, just a little more than a week away from the end of our third month of the year already. Coming up a little later on the program, we're going to talk to Andrew Penney. He is an agronomist for Bayer Crop Science, but he is based in Ames, and so we talk a little bit about what we could be expecting this year. We caught up during Commodity Classic. All that coverage was brought to you by the Iowa Corn Growers Association. But right now, let's go ahead and take a look at the markets.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
We're at the end of another trading day, and it's time to talk with Kaden Sweeney of agmarket.net. And Kaden, I know around midday things were looking up. Did it hold that way, or how did things shake out today?
Yeah, well, after the open last night, we certainly had high hopes for the way things were going to go today. Corn at 7.30 is up like 6 cents, beans up 15, 16. So, well, unfortunately, we didn't hold that throughout the day. We are still going to close green, corn a couple cents higher, beans 3 to 4 higher right now as we wind to the close. But again, we had some real fireworks last night. We were hoping, we continue that momentum, but unfortunately did not hold throughout the day.
So what was it that was pushing everything upward, and what about it kind of fizzled here as the day went on?
Yeah, I mean, the way it hit, it's all speculation on my part. I almost wonder if, a big fund wanted to get out of some shorts or something. That's kind of what it felt like, one of those deals where somebody just had to get out of the market and buy a bunch all at one time. And the rest of the market kind of reacted and then sold it off. And then I think, throughout the day today, you kind of saw what the actual market would have been without that. So, again, all things considered, corn and beans both traded red for a while this morning. So we'll certainly take the green close on that end of it.
All right, and then moving into the livestock side of things, Kaden, I mean, how did we see the cattle and hogs do? I know cattle is waiting for tomorrow's cattle on feed report. Hogs have been kind of anybody's guess day to day here. I mean, what did we see?
Yeah, you could tell the cattle are waiting for a big report. Pretty wide trading range today. They've traded higher and lower, both going to close fairly close to the middle. Fat's a bit higher, feeders a bit lower, but we had a $2-3 range on both of those today and closing pretty close to unchanged. So again, pretty typical. Going into a big report like that. Hog side, I still continue to feel like they're a bit heavy, although we did have some strength early in the week. I still would rather be on the short side or the protective side of that one than the long side. They just feel like something kind of waiting to roll over to me, although we haven't necessarily seen that yet. We've been down. This is 3 days in a row now. Going to close down about 40 cents today on the April.
So going back to the cattle on feed report for just a second, I mean, what are we kind of expecting to see? I mean, what kind of things are you thinking might show up in that report tomorrow?
Yeah, well, the estimates are a bit heavier than we've seen the past couple of months, and it's not my my specialty, but the on-feed numbers around a 101, 102, and placements like a 106, which is quite a bit higher than we've been seeing. That leads to probably the market taking a bit of profit as we've been fairly strong over the last month, or at least holding steady. So I think if you get a bullish surprise tomorrow, you're going to see cattle really jump. But going into this thing, like I said, numbers may be a bit more tempered than we've seen the last couple of months out of that on-feed report.
All right, Kaden. Well, if folks want to just pick your brains there at agmarket.net, what's the best way for them to get in touch with y'all?
First thing, wait till Monday when the tournament's over. We're watching basketball right now, but I'm just kidding. Go to our website, agmarket.net. We've been busy all day, especially with the market doing what it did last night. You can reach myself, anyone from our team from there. That
sounds good. I think everybody's watching a little basketball, but yeah, I totally get that. Once the Illinois games are over, I'm sure the guys will be ready to go again. So, well, Kaden, we thank you so much for taking the time to visit. We'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds good, Dustin. I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch.
Again, was Kaden Sweeney of agmarket.net. Let's go ahead and take a look at the closing numbers on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network market screen.
May corn was up 1 3/4 at 4.40 3/4. Soybeans up 2 1/2 at 12.12 even. Soy meal up $1.80 at 3.40 4.30. Soy oil down 21 cents at 48.79. Chicago wheat is 1 3/4 cents higher at $5.46 3/4. Kansas wheat up 1 1/4 at $5.81 3/4. Minneapolis wheat was up 1 1/2 at $6.56 3/4. Oats up 1/4 cent at $3.53 1/2. April live cattle up 57 cents at $188.37. Feeders down 30 cents at $254.62. Lean hogs off 40 cents at $84.90. Pork cutouts down a dime at $92.42, and Class 3 milk down 41 cents at $15.76.
And that's been a check of the market recap. We're going to take a short break here from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, we talk with Bayer Agronomist from Iowa, Andrew Penney. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to AMPM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Well, we know that we're getting closer to planting season, but we're still very dry, and there is concerns that we may already be going back towards a La Nina weather pattern. But we also saw yesterday some social media posts showing a dry bank in the Cedar River in some areas, or a very unused riverbank in the Cedar River in some areas. I had a chance to sit down with Andrew Penney. He is an agronomist with Bayer Crop Science during Commodity Classic. He's very well aware of what's going on in the state. We talk a little bit about what we can expect, what we should be planning for, and what Bayer can do to help.
Right now with Andrew Penney of Bayer, and with Bayer Crop Science rather, and he's an agronomist with the company out of Ames, Iowa, I see. So obviously we're going to be talking today about what we're getting ready for in Iowa, and you definitely have seen firsthand what we're seeing. And obviously drought has been the big concern going into 2024. Now, we did get some snow, but even with the moisture we get, we're so far behind. What kind of things are we needing to think about going this year?
Yeah, the discussion of the environmental factors and conditions that Mother Nature has given us the last few years, it's been huge. Whether we're in Iowa, Illinois, Nebraska, the environment's just been different than what we're traditionally used to, I would say. And so, whether we're in Iowa, whether you're in certain spots within Iowa that have got more or less rain, I think the number one thing on people's minds is just heat and drought tolerance, right? We have all these management practices and selections, just things that we do every year that maybe we're going to have to start thinking differently about because of the heat and drought. And so, a prime example, when we're talking hybrids, right, we got to talk yield potential, but we also got to talk heat and drought tolerance. And so it's just, with that too, we have management practices in terms, maybe cultivation or tillage. If we continue to have these dry conditions, we might have to start thinking about reduced tillage just to conserve soil moisture. And so there's just a lot of things that these environmental conditions we faced the last 2 to 3 years are really getting growers, thinking differently about some of their management practices.
And of course, none of us have that crystal ball to know exactly what's going to happen in 2024. So you've got to be ready for everything. Yep. And so, with an El Nino switching pattern, we're supposed to hopefully start getting a little more wet. But that doesn't mean, and again, a long way to go. But we mentioned the technology in the seed. Obviously, we talked with Secretary Nag quite a bit. Last year, the first thing out of his mouth every time we talked about the crop was, it's a testament to the technology we have. That we didn't get a lot of rain. We got it when we needed it, but we were able to maximize it just off the technology of the products like Asgrow and DeKalb have, and Bayer Crop Sciences brings to help protect those crops. Yeah,
if realistically, if it weren't for our breeding team and all of the traits and technology with that breeding, we would be in a lot different situation. My dad often references the drought of the 80s, and I can't remember what year it is, 87 or 88. 88. If we had those products now that we had back then, we wouldn't be seeing the yields that we have been. And so I think it's just a real testament to the breeding team within Bayer, but also all the traits and technology that goes into those products they're releasing. So I think it's, despite some of these rough environmental conditions, I still see numerous farmers or even counties have record yields. And so that's just stuff you don't expect with such harsh conditions that Mother Nature has given us, and yet we're still seeing record yields in spots.
But how much does it can also be attributed to agronomists like yourself and also the farmers? Because right now we're in a situation, let's plan for the drought going on, but all of a sudden we get rain. It's not like you can take the corn out of the field and put something else in that's less drought tolerant. Obviously you've got to be able to adjust on the fly. What kind of things do farmers need to be thinking about? Because we don't know what's going to plan. We talk about planning for drought tolerance, maybe reduce tillage, but how we plan for if that's not the case in the second half of the year.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm kind of in the viewpoint that we kind of hope for the best, plan for the worst. And what I mean by that is, we still got to plan for high yields, right? We can't let the last few years dictate and impact how we manage our crops. You learn from it, but you can't plan for situations. And what I mean by that, you can't just focus on products that don't have the yield potential, but maybe have really good heat and drought tolerance. And why I think we're lucky here at Bayer is, we have products that have that high yield potential, but we also have extremely good heat and drought tolerance. And so that's why understanding that product background, understanding where those products can get placed, really makes a huge impact with growers. If we can continue to plan for high yields while maintaining heat and drought tolerance, that makes a huge difference in terms of planning for the best, planning for the worst, hoping for the best.
Of course, we focus a lot about weather, but of course, agronomy is also about protecting those plants. And we're starting to see more diseases creep their way across the state. I know tar spot's one of them.
Yep.
Also, of course, the corn rootworms, the nematodes out there. There's a whole host of things that are attacking our crops that Mother Nature doesn't even control. So how do you get ready for that?
Yeah, that's another good conversation, and it's tricky because you mentioned corn rootworm and you mentioned disease, and probably the number one disease on everybody's mind is tar spot. So we have these two different issues that maybe one occurs when it's a little bit wetter, one's a little bit worse when it's a little bit drier. And so when we start looking at these drought conditions we've had the last few years, anytime we're dry in the spring, there's concern for feeding when in corn with corn rootworm. And so I think just understanding our populations, going out and digging roots to know what kind of populations and the amount of feeding that we have, and then in terms of disease, planning for a fungicide, making sure you have that in the shop. If Mother Nature is giving us conditions that are conducive for that disease to spread, be ready with the fungicide, right? Have that in your shop and be able to spray that when you need to. And so there's all these different issues that we deal with, whether that issue is brought on by high moisture or whether that issue is brought on by maybe a little bit drier conditions. If we know what scenarios those conditions are or those issues are really spurred on, whether it's heat or drought, that can help us plan for it and be ready for it. And so I think understanding, having a good relationship with your agronomist, knowing all the issues, what environmental conditions are conducive for those issues, helps us plan for it and be ready for it.
All right, so I guess the last thing, obviously the whole area of Iowa, we still have a few weeks to go before we're going to get those planters in.
Hopefully.
No matter how nice it is,
Hopefully.
We're right now a few more weeks away, at least a month or so away. If you're talking to Iowa farmers, what's those top of mind things they better be ready to address here as we're getting ready to put those crops in?
Yeah, I think the biggest one that I've really been pushing for is planting soybeans early. Historically we've planted corn first and soybeans, and I think the more we learn about science and just looking at yield potential and just some of the risk associated with early planting, we know there's a lot of risk planting corn early, right? If we lose 1,000 plants per acre with corn, that's going to impact us a lot more than even 10,000 plants per acre in soybeans. And so if we can go out and plant soybeans early, if Mother Nature gives us April 5th, April 10th planting dates, there's going to be a lot more upside planting soybeans early than there will be corn. If we can plant soybeans early and the conditions warm up, there's more potential for vegetative growth, which leads to potentially more nodes, which leads to potentially more pods and more seeds. And so the yield increase is a lot higher with planting soybeans early than corn. And so, I always say if you want to go get the corn planter out, get the bugs out, make sure you choose a hybrid that has really good emergence, good seedling growth, and that's going to reduce the chance of losing plants per acre in those cool, wet conditions. But I always like to see growers going out planting a good percentage of their soybeans first, maybe getting some corn in the ground depending on the conditions, and then get your corn done and then go back to beans. But get beans in the ground first.
All right, well, Andrew, we thank you so much for your insight and look forward to hearing more throughout the growing season.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Dustin.
And that again was Andrew Penney, agronomist with Bayer. And that brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. You can follow us on Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and on our YouTube channel. Don't forget about our free market podcasts that come out several times a week through Amazon, Apple, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. And also you can get daily podcasts of the Iowa Ag Matters program. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Mark Magnuson, Andy Peterson, and Riley Smith, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.